hints from the holdup at Scotiabank. Straight ahead, police want your help in making an arrest.
And take a look at this face. We'll tell you why police want to question this man.
And then why Stephen Dye Stubbs' attorney says the death penalty should be off the table. Find out coming up. The National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC, powered by Lime.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Keishla Adderley.
And I'm Chris Saunders. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Topping the news, the Bahamas is preparing to sign a convention which will afford the disabled persons the equality they've yearned for decades.
Prime Minister Perry Christie announced today that the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities will be signed by Minister of Social Services, the Honorable Melanie Griffin, next week.
Now, it will be the highlight of high-level talks on a wide range of topics with United Nations representatives. Our Janaea Noel Ferguson has more.
For Townsley Roberts, president of the Bahamas National Council for Disability, and other members of the disabled community, the landmark signing of a United Nations convention set to take place next week is groundbreaking.
You know, people look at us as being disabled, but we can offer some of the same things that able bodies can. We want the same rights to be able to work, to have families, to live independently.
Because the humanity of the country is often viewed in how it treats persons with disabilities, and this is the right step.
I feel that persons will have equal opportunities for, being able to move about in the community.
Equal opportunity is something that Prime Minister Perry Christie says the signing of the Rights for Disabled Convention will bring about. But he says it will also take a change in mindset. He hopes to have a database of disabled persons established.
Because we can today identify a number of persons who will begin that assessment so that I know island by island of the disabilities and therefore the extent to which public policy will be informed.
Now, although a Disabilities Act was tabled under the former administration, Minister of Social Services Melanie Griffin says that was done away with, and at present, a new bill is currently being drafted.
We reviewed it, and just in an effort to make it more user-friendly, we have produced a new draft, which again we expect to have widely consulted once we get the approval of the cabinet.
Now, Roberts says one of the major challenges for the disabled persons in the community is the inability to find employment. Minister of Labor Shane Gibson says this is about to change.
Still have a challenge in some instances where government departments and agencies, private sector agencies and departments don't work together, and they just simply don't recognize some of the needs we have out there in the community. And I think most times, like everything else, unless you are personally touched by these situations, I think it's difficult to understand and appreciate what it is most of these persons are going through.
And with legislative support on the way, persons in the disabled community say they can finally find their place in Bahamian society. Janaea Noel Ferguson, ZNS Network News.
Police tonight need your help in the fight against crime. Tonight we have a first look at the actual robber from the Scotiabank robbery from Monday at the East Street and Soldier Road branch of the Scotiabank. Police say this man held up one teller and told them to empty the till. Police know little about him and are hoping that by looking at the video, you can help find the man who brazenly robbed the bank on Monday. Any information that you have about this man, please contact police at Crime Stoppers 911, 919, and 328 TIPS. Again, this is the man police are looking for who robbed Scotiabank on Monday. Police also need your help in finding this man for a series of armed robberies. The guy opening the door with the pink shirt on. He's wanted for a series of armed robberies and home invasions here on New Providence. Police have little information on him as well, but they do know this is the man they're looking for and hope that you might recognize him from this video. If you know any information or who he is, please contact the police as well about this armed and what they call extremely dangerous man.
The three men convicted of killing a police officer 13 years ago returned to the Supreme Court today to learn their fate. But the sentencing hearing didn't go as anticipated, as the prosecution and defense sparred over whether the death penalty should be on the table. Our Fern Carey has more.
37-year-old Stephen Dye Stubbs, 36-year-old Andrew Davis, and 42-year-old Clinton Evans are facing the death penalty after a jury found them guilty back in July of killing police constable Jimmy Ambrose 13 years ago. But the prospect of being sentenced to death is not sitting well with the trio, and during today's sentencing hearing, they informed the court through their attorneys that they plan to fight it. Director of Public Prosecutions, Vanette Graham-Allen, also informed the court during the proceedings that the court-ordered psychiatric report for the convicts, usually one of the requirements before sentences passed, was not ready. She presented a letter to the court from the medical chief of staff indicating that the request for a psychiatric report had been received too late, and as a result, 3 more weeks were needed to complete it. The court agreed and adjourned the matter. The attorney for Clinton Evans, Ramona Farquharson-Seymour, then informed the court that the defense had not received a notice from the Crown indicating that they were seeking the death penalty. She said the notice should have been sent out within 10 to 14 days from the date the 3 men were convicted. But since that had not been done, Farquharson-Seymour suggested that the death penalty was therefore, quote, not on the table, end quote. Attorney Maria DeSeal, who's representing Stephen Dye Stubbs, agreed and indicated that he planned to make submissions on the matter. However, Director of Public Prosecutions, Vanette Graham-Allen, responded that there is no statutory requirement in the law which requires a notice to be sent out.
The 3 convicts remain behind bars at Fox Hill Prison. They will be sentenced on October 16th. Fern Carey, ZNS Network News.
Immigration officials are taking issue with a story in one of the local dailies which suggests that the government is trying to silence Cuban detainees, apparent witnesses to abuse at the Carmichael Road Detention Center. According to the newspaper article, Democracy Movement President Ramon Sanchez claims that Bahamian officials have rejected an asylum offer from the Honduran government for 10 Cubans at the holding site. Well, immigration officials tell us that this statement is misleading, saying decisions on the status of refugees are made in conjunction with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Now, we understand that once the advice by the international body is that the individual is eligible for refugee status, the person is released to the Red Cross or some humanitarian agency, and in conjunction with UNHCR, a place is found for them in a third country. According to a statement issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, arrangements for the third country are made and determined by High Commissioner for Refugees, not the Bahamas. We're told that all countries wishing to take asylum seekers know that they ought to contact UNHCR and not the Bahamas directly. If the individual is not adjudged to be eligible for refugee status, the statement says that person is returned to his or her home country. According to the statement, authorities continue to deplore the use of the Bahamian press to defame the country. It further reads that all persons should be careful not to repeat ill-informed commentary and unsubstantiated information.
Moving on, Minister with responsibility for the National Insurance Board, the Honorable Shane Gibson, says that the board will abort that second audit which was planned.
Now, Minister Gibson told our Janae Noel Ferguson today why the probe, the first of which ended in the termination of former NIB Director Algernon Cargill, is no longer necessary.
We're looking at having a forensic audit done, and after we looked at the article carefully and saw that there was provisions already to have an actual review in 2011, which was not done, we thought it would be more appropriate, having regarded the fact that the audit was just completed, to have the actual review instead of the forensic audit. And I believe that would give us a better picture of where the prescription drug plan is, if we are achieving its objectives, if it is achieving its objectives, and where do we go from there.
Now, while it was speculated that prosecutions would have come out of that audit earlier this year, Minister Gibson said the case is still being reviewed by the Attorney General's office.
The audit, it's a huge volume of paperwork, and as soon as the review is completed by the attorneys, they will decide if anything would be done in terms of having, because I'm saying you could have mismanagement, misappropriation, but we never really saw initially anything that would direct us in a specific direction, and that is why the lawyers are going through it. And if it is determined that they would go further, then the chips will fall where they may. But I think the press is making more of it than we are, because the press keep pushing and saying who's going to be prosecuted. Our position is we have to be neutral, we have to be fair, we have to allow the process to take its course. And at the end of the day, if something is determined to be done that was done illegally, then the chips will fall where they may.
Still ahead tonight, 2 schools plagued by hazards assessed today. Did they pass the test? We'll tell you coming up.
The procession to a new seat in the Anglican Cathedral will explain coming up. You're watching the Bahamas Tonight.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Shell Helix Ultra. Performance you can see.